Hi there, and you're very welcome along to the evening show, and thank you for being with us on this Friday evening. Coming up on the programme, David Whelehan, the lovely David Whelehan, is here once again tonight with a little bit more wine tasting for you. Plus, as you know at this stage, I've been trying to get a little bit more active because we all know that to feel healthier and to have more energy, you need to get off the couch. I know it's hard. So this week I tried to do just that. I went off to Total Fitness to visit Robbie Howe for a little bit of inspiration and hopefully to give you some too. So you won't want to miss that. It's coming up later on the evening show. Now, a great friend of the show, David Whelehan, joins me once again in studio, and this time he's got a little bit of a challenge for me because we're not talking about wine. We're talking sherry. David.
And sherry of all things, and in fact, sherry ultimately should be classified as wine, would you believe it? But we often think of it as a liqueur.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of it as a wine at all.
No, and what sherry is, it's actually a fortified wine. And what I mean by that is they actually ferment the grapes as they do a normal regular wine, and then they add a little bit of grape alcohol at a certain time in the process, and it gives it a bit of fortification and ups the alcohol a little bit.
So there's more alcohol in sherry
than
there is
definitely more
wine.
alcohol in sherry, and there will always be more alcohol in sherry. And the first style of sherry that we're going to kick off with is actually a Fino sherry, and a Fino sherry is a dry style of sherry, and it's to be enjoyed with food, and it should be drunk exactly like a regular table white wine.
Okay, well, before you go into that, how do you get from, you know, a white wine or a red wine to a sherry? What's the process?
So the process is, with this particular version of the Fino sherry, they're typically working with the Palomino grape, which is a local grape to Jerez where sherry is made. And what they do is they crush the grapes, they throw in the yeast, it ferments into a regular dry white wine.
A regular wine.
And it's very high in acid and it's not very palatable. And then what they do is they add a little bit of grape alcohol to it, and they put it into large big butts or large barrels, and then a certain little yeast forms on the top in the case of Fino. And this yeast that forms on top starts to take nutrients out of the alcohol, grape alcohol that they actually added, and it gives the wine a lovely kind of nutty character, and it makes the wine ultimately very, very dry because all the sugar is stripped out of the wine, and you end up with this really intense dry style of wine with a really intense nutty character that's unbelievably dry.
Right, okay.
And it's quite a treat. And I say Finos should always be enjoyed with food. And I say once you pull the cork off the Fino sherry, you should always drink, the wine as quickly as you can. And Mauricio Gonzalez was over there in Ireland recently, and I was saying to him, one of the issues that we have in Ireland is when you see a cork like that, you automatically assume
you think it's going to last maybe a week, a month, or it's or a brandy that you can leave in the press,
or a year that you can put back in the press. But ideally it should have a closure like that. And what he said to me was, he totally agreed, and they're actually thinking of having this for the export market because in Spain they drink so much Fino sherry in all the bars and restaurants that they need a closure like this that they can whip out because people have a quick glass. Because normally you're having a glass, you're not necessarily drinking a bottle of Fino sherry, so it's normally a glass. And the thing is, you can also serve it with the first course if you're having a big dinner party, your consommes, your anything really, your salmon, sushi, the whole lot. Wonderful.
And would you drink a glass of sherry the same as, in the same quantity of wine?
In probably the ideal amount of pour would be something like that. So
just enough.
Just enough. And I say that should probably be, it could be probably a little bit too much for an aperitif, but I say with your main course as well, absolutely delightful.
There is a smell coming off that.
Yeah, and
wow.
really, this is not for the faint-hearted now. I say, and if you like Sauvignon Blanc, you're probably not going to like this too much. Particularly the fruitier side of Sauvignon Blanc, because this is bone dry. It's got sort of almost like an almondy character to it. For me, and I've never heard it in any reference books, but for me, it's almost got like a pistachio nut character to it as well. Very dry, but it's got huge flavour. And I say when you're eating it with slightly salty tapas like pata negra or olives or any of these kind of salty tomatoes, it's just glorious.
You mentioned pistachio nuts. I totally know what you're talking about. That's there, isn't it? But I actually thought it'd be stronger though.
Yeah, and also green walnuts. But it's just a really exciting style of wine. It's mouth-watering. It's got huge nutty length. So if you think of like walnuts, pistachio nuts, it's all those flavours, and you must chill it, and you must enjoy it with food, and you must drink lots of water at the same time. But it really does have a tingle factor like that.
Wow, it does, yeah. I mean,
but as I say, it's not a fruity style of wine, and I don't want to mislead anybody. It's definitely an aperitif style, and it's definitely to go with food.
Okay, well it is quite strong. It's much stronger than a normal white wine.
This one here is 15 degrees of alcohol. So, but I mean, if you're buying a New World Chardonnay, there might be 14 and a half, bordering on 15. So it's not hugely out, but it tastes much stronger because of the actual process.
You know, a glass of that would be lovely, but you know, you wouldn't sit drinking that all night.
No, you wouldn't.
No.
And the danger is, by virtue of that, there'll be quite a lot left over, and you put it back in the press, and that's a big no.
Okay.
And also the important thing about Fino Sherry, and this is probably the most important thing, is once it's bottled, it should actually be drunk within 6 months. So they're talking about putting codes on the back of the bottles, so we'll actually know exactly when to drink it up, because it loses a lot of its charm and character.
Okay.
And this one is the biggest brand in the world, Tio Pepe, for Fino Sherry.
Okay, well, we have a little bit of red in the middle to break it up.
I think we would. And what was interesting about the Gonzalez family, of course, they're unbelievably famous for their sherries, but by virtue of being a great wine family, they've also bought a number of wineries all over Spain. And of course, when we're talking Spain, we have to talk Rioja.
Oh, I know, because you had a Rioja on last night, and I have to say, you're hitting a chord at me. I love Rioja.
Yeah, no, and it definitely has a harmonious note about it. And this is the Baronia Rioja Collection Special, and it's the 2008 vintage, 100% Tempranillo, as you were alluding to. There's the Tempranillo grape branded across the bottle. And this is an interesting one because it's actually double fermented in oak barrels, which gives it an incredibly toasty oak character. And I think it's quite exciting. And with this, we're thinking once again of like a really wonderful roast lamb or the like. And when they say double fermented in barrels, what they mean is the primary fermentation happens in new oak, and then the secondary fermentation, which is a malolactic fermentation, also happens in oak. And what you have is a huge amount of oak character, and it's quite intriguing that they're using new oak for this style of wine at this price point, because oak barrels are actually very expensive.
Yeah.
So classically, this is American oak. Classically, an American oak barrel would cost somewhere between $500 and $600, and there's 225 litres of wine in a barrique. So it's you can work out the sums there. So it actually is quite an expensive component of the wine.
Wow.
And because the wine is youthful, this is 2008, you've got lots of juicy fruit character going on. So you've got juicy fruit and oak.
Really, really nice. I had to take a few sips because of, you know, because the sherry's so strong beforehand.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's really, really nice.
It is. It's very, very intense. So if you like a very toasty style of wine and then a juicy style of wine, this really ticks the box. So let me just try a little bit there.
Well, you have some. But I have to say, maybe I need to broaden my horizons a little bit. But Rioja and the Tempranillo grape is always where I go on a wine menu.
They are, and this is wonderfully juicy. I mean, there's just a lovely juiciness, and a lovely freshness in it as well. So this is one I think that people will really, really enjoy.
That's beautiful.
And it's €13.99, so and that's the full price. That's not a sale price. It's $13.99. Okay. So it's a really solid one. So if you're thinking of any kind of function or whatever, you know, try and find someone that has it on sale, because it's always a good idea. But I think people will really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a great one. And we have another sherry.
So we're back to sherry again.
Back to sherry. I'm ready now.
And this is very exciting. And this is going to be one of the most exciting wines we've ever done on the show.
Okay.
Over the years.
Wow.
And this is actually a sweet sherry. And when we're talking sweet sherry, we're talking about the Pedro Jimenez grape. It's a wonderful grape that we never encounter. And how they actually make it is they pick these grapes and they dry them on grass mats in the vineyards.
Right.
And then the grapes basically shrivel up into little raisins, and then they press them and they ferment the really intense sugar syrupy stuff that's left over.
Right.
And hence they end up with this. And there's a little bit of fortification going on. And you're going to see an incredible colour. So get ready for an incredible colour.
So this is Christmas.
This is Christmas in a bottle.
Christmas in a bottle.
You cannot imagine anything more Christmassy than that. Look at the colour.
It's almost licoricey, isn't it?
It is. It's a licoricey. And it's actually, what's quite interesting is there's a slight green edge to it. So it's a kind of a really deep brown colour with a slight green rim to it.
Yes, I see.
And that's what you get with very old wines. And what's interesting about this is on the label, I'm not sure if the camera can home in the label or not, but there's the number 30 there. So this wine has been matured in barrels for 30 years. So imagine this is a 30-year-old wine currently in our glass, currently in the bottle.
30 years old?
30 years old.
Wow.
So it's almost the same age as me. So 30 years old.
Yeah, it's nearly the same age as you, David.
Exactly. So with this, it's almost like crushed raisin. So if you can think of the incredibly sweet style of wine, with good acidity, and with this they're thinking of chocolate cake, chocolate puddings, and even over in Jerez they'll actually pour this on vanilla ice cream.
Oh, really?
Yes, and it's something just so delicious. And what's very exciting about it is, with the Fino Sherry, we kept on going on about it. The fact is, once you pull the cork, you must drink it there and then, or
Not the case.
This one can, once you pull the cork, and then once again, it's got the classic sherry type closure. It can stay in the press for 5 years. No
5
problem.
years?
No problem. And you can open and close it and have a little bit and put it back in again.
My goodness.
Because there's so much sugar in it.
Well, there's a celebration here. Okay, we'll have to drink this together.
Absolutely.
So sláinte.
Sláinte.
Okay, here we go.
So.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that extraordinary?
Raisins.
It's just pure raisins.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a bit of spiciness going on there. There's lovely acidity, and I guarantee you, this is a style of wine that will absolutely dazzle people. And you don't have to, if you're having a dinner party, I mean, literally, that's all the amount that you'd be pouring.
You genuinely wouldn't actually drink more than that,
no,
really.
that's about an it. But it's just something really special, and it's a real talking point. And I just think it's wonderfully exciting. It's called Noe. When you see Noe, it's quite hard to know how do you pronounce it. It's called Noe from González Baez, and say González Baez, founded in 1835, celebrating the 175th. So it's a very important producer of wine, and it's a style of wine. If you Google it, you'll find that Noe's won endless gold medals. It's seen as one of the great secrets of wine.
Brilliant. Well, you're going to have to bring another version of that on for Christmas, because to me, that's a little bit of a celebration in a glass. So thank you so much for bringing it out to us.
A pleasure.
Absolutely fabulous. So you drink that while we go to a break.
Sláinte. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much. And if you want to get your hands on the labels that we've covered here, because anytime David is on, we're inundated with emails, the evening show at city.ie, and I'll be able to pass on all the information. Now, while we enjoy this beautiful celebratory drink, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, you'll be finding out how I was getting fit with Total Fitness. See you in part 2.